Hello, everyone. Welcome back for Ready, Set, Shag, episode number 17. It's an unusual time slot for this particular show, but given circumstances of the world and just I'm bored tonight, I decided to have a good friend on this evening to talk about some things and talk about himself. A lot of you guys know him. He does a great show called the Reel McCoy Podcast. I've been a part of it myself. I love his takes on movies. I like how he watches them and reviews them. Well, let's just bring him on. Enough talking for me. Meffistoe is here with us. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. It is early in the morning for me. It is an evening for you, but that's how it works on this side of the world.
Right.
How am I doing? I'm doing okay, considering everything that you guys might hear in the news, because it's we talk about it a lot, us guys on the internet, that whatever you see in established media is whatever the established media wants you to see and wants you to hear, and with a slant towards whatever their interests are.
Right.
My phone goes off. But yeah, we personally, I'm doing okay. Family wise, doing okay. State wise, that's a whole other matter.
Before we get too into that, I'd give you a chance to like really tell people who might be listening on other platforms at a later date. Just give us a quick rundown of who you are, what you do, and kind of how you got started in all of it.
All right, cool. Well, my name is Meffistoe. You might hear the name and kind of my name is spelled wrong. That's a relic of my gaming past. But overall, I was born, raised in Israel. Never been to the States. I'm supposed to be there at late April for the very first time. The accent really came from watching a lot of TVs and movies when I was a kid, because I was a latchkey kid. I always came home. There was no PC in the house when I was 6, 7, 8, 9. So all I had was the VCR rentals and whatever was on the one channel we had that was an Israeli channel, and the other channel we had was a channel that was back in the day in Lebanon. We kind of, because the antennas, you could have get a channel from Lebanon, and it was the Christian channel. So
Wow.
So in Lebanon, if you don't know, there's 3 kinds of population. There, the Christians, they're a small minority, the Sunni Muslims and the Shiite Muslims. So the 2 factions of Muslims, and they're all kind of need to live together. That's why Lebanon is a very complicated country.
Yeah.
But we got the Christian channel, and you didn't have any subtitles. So you did have subtitles, but they're all in Arabic. So I couldn't read Arabic. I can't read Arabic now, even though I studied it in high school. But sort of the education or the culture I've kind of sponged in was, generally speaking, American culture and British culture, because at the time, when I was allowed to stay up a little bit later, there were a lot of British comedies that kind of filtered in to the Israeli TV. Again, because there was one channel and that sort of thing. So a lot of movies. That's where I get my accent. That's where I get my my culture, my education, all of that stuff.
Okay.
Later on, grew up, went to the army because conscription here is a mandatory thing. I was in reserve for about 20 years after I left. So almost every year I was doing something in uniform, where it was mostly training and sometimes actually filling in for regular troops as they take a rest or do some training themselves. So sort of taking charge, the older guys coming in, taking charge for a little bit, then kind of switching over. That's kind of how it works around here. In terms of YouTube, I've been kind of doing YouTube since 2015. Mostly not serious for the first year and a half. The channel I have right now, the Mephisto's movie reviews, is something rather recent. I opened it during the Corona times, but I didn't do much with it. I wanted to do like movie reactions to it. Didn't quite want to do anything with it. But during that time, I was actually working with the guy who inspired me to go into YouTube. He still does it. He started off as a World of Warcraft content creator, and that's the game I was playing mainly for 15 years.
Okay.
And kind of followed what he does, but not really. And
wait, hold on. Question: Horde or Alliance?
Horde.
Okay, you can
forever.
All right, you can remain on the podcast then. Anyways, continue.
For the Horde. No. So he inspired me to do it, and because he was one of the few YouTubers that had meetups like a long time ago. The first meetup was literally, I think it was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we kind of met up. We got to talking. We were talking backstage, and when it was Corona time, it was supposed to be a meetup in 2020, and everything was gonna start setting up at around sort of February, March, and that's where everything closed up. He kind of canceled it, and it was canceled for the better part of 3 years, so 2020, 2021, and it only came back 2022. Okay. But we were talking behind the scenes, and he wanted to go into other stuff rather from open up a second channel, do some movie stuff, because we were aligned in terms of what movies we saw when we were kids. He is the same age as my brother, so and it's sort of the same age. I'm gonna out him now, but sort of the same age as Oh My Feelings, sort of. So kind of like younger brother kind of relationships. Not really, because I don't actually know him. I know him, but not know him.
Right.
And I kind of told him, well, I can do some stuff with you. And he said, well, many people in the past said, I want to do some stuff with you, but they never gone concrete. Yeah. So I came up with the show, the same show that you've been on. It's the Reel McCoy Podcast. Didn't have a name at the time. But that's the kind of show I wanted to do, where it's not only talking about a specific movie, is also having some fun with it. That goes beyond. So I literally did a full lineup of what the show was supposed to be looking like. Gave him that synopsis, and he was like, "This looks good." And coming from him, and he's been doing YouTube since 2013, and he's very successful. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, we can work with this. But what he said was, I can't do it right now. Let's wait 6 months, because Corona just hit. Let's wait and see what's happening.
Yeah.
And I was eagering to do the show, and I told him, look, why don't we? I have a buddy, Oh My Feelings. He also knows the guy, so let's do like a pilot show, like a beta show, a full-on show. We'll pick a movie that you've probably seen, and we'll go with it. And that actually became the first episode of the Reel McCoy Podcast, which is Blazing Saddles, where we covered Blazing Saddles. Mm-hmm. He liked it, and he said, well, we kind of set things up, so I can't really do it right now. And I was like, look, I know it's my concept, and I don't really need your approval, but do I have your approval to just do it ourselves? And he said, well, yeah, this doesn't belong to me. Like, go ahead. So that's where it started. And to be perfectly honest, about 6, 7, 8 weeks into doing the show, I was kind of getting more involved in trying to talk people from the fellowship. I've been watching a lot of whatever you know as the fellowship for years, but I wasn't in the chat rooms because most of the shows were live when I was not there.
Yeah.
Nighttime, all that stuff. And I had some sort of a mental block or something to what why don't I approach these guys? Because
Mhm.
I talked to the other guy, the YouTube guy that I know for years, and he's the same as he is on stream as well. He's just British,
Mhm.
and he's a lot more open. And I thought, well, from what I get, from what my contact was with mostly American crew and some of the British crew that I talked to, they're very standoffish with people that they don't know. So suddenly a guy from the chat sends you a DM on Twitter. It's like, "Hi, would you like to like come on the show?"
Yeah.
I kept being in my head where it's like they wouldn't do this for somebody they don't know.
Yeah.
But as I got more involved in terms of just listening in and seeing and kind of figuring out some stuff, I was like, well, fuck it. I just sent a bunch of emails out and try and get people to maybe come and join us for a show. And slowly, very slowly, it kind of happened. Very, very slowly.
That's awesome,
Where
dude. Oh, go ahead. Finish. Yeah.
I was gonna last sentence is I was, and I still am timid about sending some stuff, but I usually was like grab some courage. And I know it sounds stupid of me being in my edge and being timid, is like sending a bunch of emails and DMs and just sending them out there. And I know people are busy and they don't necessarily look at their DMs, and sometimes it goes into the ether where it gets to the person, but it goes into this list of, decline and ignore and
Yeah.
accept, where I get those DMs too, because they don't show up as a DM. They just show up as a different list.
Yeah.
So I don't hold grudges. I know some people that I've actually managed to catch was like, yeah, I didn't see like your first, I never saw your email because it got
Yeah.
buried, or your DM because it got buried. I
Yeah.
would have said yes.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I go through the same thing when it comes to like guests on the midweek hump. Like I don't know. Like, oh, I shouldn't have. Why would that person come on the show? But then I'm like, well, what's the worst that could happen? I'm in the same place I am now. Like they can't go or they can't make it. It's like, well, they're busy. They're even busier than I am. So it just you learn to get over that sort of like that fear that of rejection, because I think that's just part of it anyway, that you might get rejected the first few times, but the more you do your thing, the more the more you're building your own reputation, and that will just help over time. So, oh, well, this guy's got 100 episodes under his belt, like he's obviously trying to do what he's trying to do. He means he's there to do the work, so let's give it a shot. It might work out eventually. um
The one thing I have to give credit to, and it's weird, during the Rittenhouse trial,
mm,
I was already watching Rakeda at the time before Rittenhouse.
yeah.
And during Rittenhouse is where I was really trying to get guests. So that's October of 2021, I
Yep.
think, where I kind of pushed more for it. Let's
Yeah.
just say that. And I remember this distinctly. I had 93 subscribers on the movie channel. And I sent Nick like a super chat. The super chat says, "Hi Nick, I've been following you since like early 2020. Since he went deep into the Trump stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I've been following you since 2020. Love your stuff. Would you be willing to do a show about movies rather than just politics or law?" And he immediately said, "Yes, I'm open to anything. Just DM me." And I think it was late in the show where he read the super chat
Mhm.
because it's during the trial and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I sent him a DM, and I think it was right at the end of the show, he sent me back. It's like, "Dude, just tell me what, where, when, and we'll figure it out." And it took about another year until he actually was on the show. I don't hold it against him. He's just, every time I send him a message, like, dude, we're doing this movie. Why don't we try and do something? And he's like, I think I can do it. And then it just doesn't happen. And it's fine. I mean, the man has fucking 5 kids and a very successful show. And suddenly he does this Rittenhouse thing and it blows up. Like if you don't follow him the day to day, that's fine. But technically speaking, he was about 120K. And after the trial, he was 350, 360, 380. That's a whole lot. Like, if you think about 100,000 subscribers being a full-on YouTube channel, working, making money, it tripled that in a month and a half.
Yeah, he was the highest earning super chat channel.
He was.
Yeah. That's insane. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how, like, even me, like, I don't have a big channel. I do a couple of live shows a week, basically, and
don't sell yourself too short, man. Really.
But like, it's amazing how, like, when you do stuff like this, it takes up a lot of your time. People say, oh, it's not work. Like, you're just sitting in front of a camera. Like, there's so much stuff that goes into creating clips, into just coming up with stuff to talk about, continuing, like, everyone jokes host, like that's the big meme on my channel now, host. And it's hard sometimes because, I mean, part of me wants to, like, sit back and not do anything. It's why one of the reasons I love guest starring on other people's shows is I don't have to do anything. I just kind of go with the punches. It's great. But yeah, there's just, even someone like myself, like, I feel bad, like, delaying shows or saying, hey, I just can't do it this weekend because, family stuff came up. My kids are 6 and 4 years old, and sometimes things just pop up and I don't want to miss out on that, or I need to stay longer, or stuff comes up with the wife. It's like, hey man, I can't, I would love to, but I can't. And, and people don't often understand, or I hope they do understand. I hate canceling on people. Because I always feel like, well, maybe this will be a missed opportunity. Maybe I'm missing out on something. But I mean, the more important thing is that I'm missing out on my family. I'm missing out on my kids or wife or something like that. But I do want to say, I want to thank you too, because, you and I have been interacting quite a bit. I mean, obviously at least once a week for the past, I don't even know how long at this point that you've been a part of the after show.
Episode 37, 38, somewhere around there.
It's been
just do the math.
It's almost a year, basically.
Almost a year,
yeah. But props to you for pushing me at certain times and applying pressure, regarding clips and stuff like that. And while I haven't gone fully headlong into it, I do have help from some. But even, like, we were talking pre-show about my debating on TikTok. And what's been interesting about that is I've actually really enjoyed. I've found a joy in doing those, even though they make my skin crawl sometimes with some of the conversations I have. But also, I'm much more energized to, like, really clip those up. I've almost found that bit of content that I'm enjoying more than anything. It doesn't feel like forced. It just feels like, hey, there's something to this. Like, I'm learning and I'm engaging with people. As cringe as it can be. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I've certainly got some good feedback on the discussions. So it's so thank you for pushing, because I think it's important to have those people in your corner. And I don't think I'd be in certain places had you not done that. You hadn't applied pressure where needed. So
I feel like it's sort of I'm looking at it the way Joe Rogan looks at it, in terms of high tide I don't remember this exact sentence. High tide sweeps all boats.
Right.
It's literally, I have some degree of success, so I'm just holding the other people who want to be at that point, at that at the higher point or that farther point. I'm just bringing them along, and to see people that I've followed that had almost no subs, or just were maybe ahead of me, maybe behind me, and now they have more, and it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
Just have stuff that they put out do well. It makes me happy, and it makes me also like, oh, he's ahead of me now. Now I need to catch up.
Yeah.
And the metric of subs is kind of frivolous, because we both know that you can have a really nice, cool show with 40 viewers and have 400 subs,
Mhm.
and have the same cool show, 40 viewers with 2,000 subs or
Yeah.
20,000 subs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So, but the metric of, oh, he's ahead of me now, is something that I look up to, like, oh, this needs to give you motivation to do better or do more, or try and figure out what to do to make your point hit.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a deterrent. It's like, oh, I'm jealous. Yeah, of course it comes from jealousy. It comes from the human element of coveting your neighbor's wife, or looking
Right.
at the grass is greener on the other side. And
Yeah.
it's a human trait. It's why it is a commandment. And I thought, if I remember correctly, it was brought up in one of your first shows, when you went into more of the theology of God and old New Testament, Old Testament thing. And I don't remember the exact point, but it came up and it kind of stuck in my head, where the commandments, if you look at the commandments as a man-made thing, not a God-made thing,
Right.
it's 4 commandments for God and 6 commandments for human, because even God, or the people who wrote the commandments, knew that the most important thing is what's on earth before you go to before heaven,
Right.
before the ethereal, before the spiritual.
Yeah.
There's the day-to-day grind of being a human.
Right.
And that's where the smart, that's where the intelligence comes from. And
Right.
that's what I love about it. And I'm not a spiritual man of sorts,
Right.
but I do believe in the cleverness of it,
Yeah.
the understanding of the human element of what is to be a human.
No, I agree. It's kind of where I am with it, and I sort of battle back and forth. And I see Society Reviews is in our chat, and him and I are like, he always asks me to have chats on stuff like this, and I need to take him up on it, because I know he's a devout believer. And actually, real quick, I'm going to pause real fast, because I said I was going to mention this, but I have a friend who's out in Hawaii, and those who are listening afterwards or currently, or again another time, I'm going to put a link in the description. It's a GoFundMe. He's battling stomach cancer right now. He is not doing except especially well at the moment. So I'm just going to drop his GoFundMe. You guys do not have to donate, but if you feel like you want to help out someone who I respect, he is someone who I spent many years alongside working with, and he showed me a lot about Hawaiian culture. And he's a new dad. He has a newborn, only I want to say about a year old now. And like I said, things have not been going great. So if you can help Koa in his journey with cancer, please, and only if you can, help with a little bit. They're reaching their goal of 40K, but Christmas season's coming up, Thanksgiving's coming up, might be a good something a little good. Anyways, on to the rest of the show.
Yeah, throw in some $5 if you can.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I can't go into it, but that sort of big C is something that we deal with.
Yeah.
I can't go into it. It's a privacy thing.
No, of course. I mean, my family has been, in some respect, like I don't want to say ravaged by it, but many people in my family on my mom's side have had different sort of versions of it. and it's been tough. I lost my grandfather about 12 years ago now, 11 years ago, and it was hard. It was hard to watch him go, but you know,
Yeah.
there's
I
some
I,
fighters
uh,
out there.
I understand. I lost my aunt to not stomach cancer, but she was a she was diabetic, but she was type 1. So
Oh,
she lived with it for a very long time, and at a certain point, I guess because and I hate to say it, but it's I think it's the sweeteners. Especially she grew up with sweeteners that were a little bit more carcinogenic, so it
yeah.
didn't start right away. It didn't quite manifest itself until a certain point where she had, I think, brain cancer or something in the brain that was pressing something, and then it caused something else. I wasn't really terribly clear about the subject because they really kept it private
Yeah.
until it was done.
Right.
So went to the hospital, never came out, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But my mother's sister, my aunt,
Yeah.
it's just yeah, and
Yeah.
you can't do anything. And when it's completely private, like from your close family private,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
never
It's
know.
rough.
It's like I managed to get a glimpse of it when she was at my wedding, and I saw like, why are you wearing a wig? And
Right.
she's
Right.
like, she confessed to me. It's like, why are you telling this to me now? It's like,
Yeah.
I understand. So sometimes the privacy thing, I don't understand. Sometimes the privacy thing, I do understand. So
Yeah.
that's, I let people deal with that sort of thing on their own. So if you want to tell me you want to go on the limb, good. If you want to keep it private for whatever reason, do it. I keep the current private thing now because it doesn't involve me.
Okay.
So
Um, so the one of the reasons I want to have you on is because, well, I suppose the current situation that's happening around you, um, the conflict between Israel and Palestine. One of the things I've never really paid too much attention to it. Good or for better or for worse. I had to look up some things to sort of understand what was going on, and immediately when I heard what was happening, I thought of you, and was just and reached out and wanted to make sure that you were safe. And one of the things you said, to sort of open, was that you have to, when the mainstream media is saying one thing, um, you know, I, there's probably a message they want you to hear. Um, there's been many comments flung around Twitter, for example, where you and I spend some time, and
mhm.
you know, I this is one of those times where I think people are forgetting themselves and what's happening. I'll defer to you shortly to kind of give us a rundown of what is going on, or for whatever you can say. Um,
I will be first of all, I know of them. Let's just say this. I'm very much aware of things that are happening when it goes into like the more deeper stuff, which I don't want to share because it could misconstrued as misinformation or information that, let's say, my side doesn't want to be out there on the YouTubes or whatever media. Not that I'm beholden to anybody. I'm
right,
not in the army. I'm not in the army reserves. I don't have technical knowledge of what's going on in the field right now,
right,
but I know the people who are involved, generally speaking. So I know how the army works, how the people in the army work, their mentality, their modus operandi, all that stuff. But of course, everything is ever changing, ever flowing, and new people come in, new thoughts, new strategies. So, and it's not like I was a like I was a lowly sergeant. Let's just
right.
say that. So it's not like I'm a high-ranking guy, individual, sat in meetings and all that stuff. So yeah, I did sit in strategy meetings where you had contingency plans for war, but they're all been changed several million times by now.
Right. And I guess, I mean, my approach to this is not necessarily to sort of to pry and get whatever state secrets I can out of you, but more of like,
I don't have any.
Right. No, exactly. And I, even if I thought you did, that wouldn't be the point. It's more of like, I guess like like, can you share anything that you think that is really differing from what's actually happening versus what we're seeing on the news?
Yes. I'm gonna give. I've brought up a map, just so when I talk and people listening, they have sort of a visual aid of what I'm talking about. Because when I let's just say this, I'm gonna give you an example, and I've thought about this, and I thought sort of prepared to talk to you, and I also talked to Toxic Man Flu about whether or not he wants me on Comics Division's Rumble political show.
Yeah.
If he wants to. I was like, I was open. If you don't want to, fine. And he said, well, we'll send you a link and we'll sort that out.
Cool. Wait, that's tonight.
What I'll say, I'll give you a map and I'll give you a sort of a visual aid, because what I thought about was, if I try to compare things, I can compare things to like places that people know. So if I say, well, the Gaza Strip threw rockets at Tel Aviv, let's see what's the distance. Well, it's about from New Jersey to Manhattan.
Oh.
You can visualize New Jersey to Manhattan. You can visualize San Diego to Los Angeles. You can visualize that. If I say, well, this is Gaza and this is Tel Aviv and Israel, blah, 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 and people don't know where stuff is, if I show you a map, you'll at least know how things look like and why things are problematic.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
you want me to share now?
It's shared. You just throw a throw there. Okay. So let's start with how things happen. So if you look, just to give you an overview, Gaza is Israel is like a big cigar. Gaza is on the Mediterranean side. So there's the Mediterranean side on one end, and there's the Jordan River on the other end, where it borders with Jordan. Okay, very simple. So it's a strip of, let's say, a strip of beach. From that strip of beach, you have a small little sliver that houses about, it differs between who you ask, between 1 million Palestinians and 5 million Palestinians. Who knows?
It's quite the jump.
Really is. It really is. Who knows? And this little piece of land is like the size of, I don't know, about half of Manhattan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Minus maybe a little bit bigger.
Okay.
So it's a very small piece of land with lots and lots of people on it. Now, if you see the highlight, imagine there's a big fence all around that, and it borders with Egypt on the one hand. So this little tiny piece right here is a border that used to be controlled by Israel on the one hand, on the white side of the road, and on the Egypt side of the road, there were sort of parallel fences. Let's just say that. Yep. But now there's just the one.
Okay.
Not controlled by Israel. It's strictly Egypt and the Palestinian. Used to be Palestinian Authority. Now it's the Hamas. Okay. That's where we are now. You don't see it on this map. There are like small little settlements, and when I say settlements, these are legitimate settlements on Israeli territory, non-contestant. It's mostly people with farms. It's like small little villages. If you think about small little towns in Nebraska, Oklahoma, where you have small little centers and
Yep.
a ton of fields of what do you have there? Carrots, potatoes, corn, all that stuff is grown all the way there. And it's mostly very poor desert kind of soil, but not
Yep.
sand, not the like Sahara Desert.
I
So
did
it's yeah.
I did
Go
see
ahead.
a map that like basically where Israel's right in there is like a lot of farmland. Like
A
the
lot.
like between this I guess southeastern border area and Israel here is like just farmland as far as the eye can see. That's what I in some of the stuff I read and watched was this was a big farming area.
In terms of region, the region is called the Negev, which is, if you
Right.
take the whole cigar, it's about a half of the country.
Okay.
Um, and it's widespread, and it's like I said, it's mostly desert, but the Israeli ingenuity and all that stuff, irrigation mostly, and irrigation techniques, where our technology is far superior to I have to say, to the rest of the world. It's one of our most valuable exports is irrigation technology.
Yep.
A lot of the stuff that is grown around that area, like so the outside of Gaza in the Israeli territory, is stuff that goes out to export to Europe. Think about the farmlands in Spain and in Holland that export a lot of that stuff to the mainland Europe. That's where it comes from. Okay. So there's lots of little settlements there. And of course, you've got several outposts. I wouldn't call them bases, but they're outposts where you have soldiers just keeping an eye. You've got several watchtowers, electronic watchtowers, so radars, whatever you can think of that can pick up human movements. Now, I think it was 2014 where we had the major conflict of where you've heard about the tunnels that were dug underneath. So if you see all around here on the map, so I don't think you can see my cursor.
I can't, no.
Okay. I don't know how to share it with the cursor, so it doesn't matter. So if you think about that whole line was filled with, in front of every village, you had one tunnel going across the border underneath, waiting to be used.
Yep.
And that was the whole war back in 2014, where they send out rockets. We went in, we discovered all these tunnels and destroyed them and made this new kind of structure or the stuff that will hinder buildings of more of these tunnels. So a big ditch, concreted out to oblivion, and then a whole fucking fence that you can't go through it. That's the starting point of this Saturday, as much as I can go into.
Okay.
Now, what happened on Saturday? On Saturday, what they did was a coordinated, pre-planned attack. It wasn't a sort of a terrorist. Oh, it's a terrorist incursion. No. It was a full-on, what you think of as an ISIS attack on towns and cities, whatever it was in the conflict in northern Iraq, where you had tractors pulling down the fence. You had people, if they didn't have a tractor, what they did was to have we call them fence cutters, but it's basically a bomb that you go all around, like a C4, what you see in the movies, where you have a full C4 and you blow it up and it creates a door. And just people just poured out. Now, if you see on the top of the map, so if you do like a northeast, You see there's a little like a circle, like a dot where it's a blue dot.
Yeah.
That's a point where you can exit. That's a
Okay.
big it's a big complex where people will go out with permits to go to work in the fields.
Okay.
Like
Border crossing type, like.
border cross. It's a border
Yeah.
crossing kind of a moment. Whatever you see in Mexico, well, border crossing in Mexico, it kind of looks like that, but in a smaller scale. Because
Okay.
let's just face it.
Yeah.
Even from there, they poured out. They literally stormed that place and just blew out the gates and just went out with sort of the Toyota trucks that you saw in the news. All that just poured out. Now, from every single point on the map, wherever they exited was straight out into some sort of a settlement, some sort of a village. So
Okay.
they didn't go to like the desert or to farmland. They just straight out into settlements, into heavily civilian, so civilian territories.
Okay.
They went out to outposts that were there. Most of the outposts that were attacked were very small outposts, very few men or women, and it wasn't very heavily guarded because mostly what you use for protection is a few tanks, because a tank can cover a lot of ground and has a lot of firepower. Think
Yeah.
about how much firepower does an Abrams tank can manufacture, and that's just the one. It could be devastating. It could be devastating. So there were a few tanks that were guarding around, but they got attacked from above. What they did was they literally jumped off the highest roof in the Gaza Strip, whatever you have, or whatever the other settlements are. So Gaza is just the one upstairs, but there's a few towns along the way. Some of
Okay.
them are named. So where it says Rafah or Khan Yunis, those are the major ones. So they jumped off high roofs. And what happens is if you jump off and just have a parachute, sometimes it doesn't register as anything. So it could be like a pigeon or an eagle or something.
Mhm.
That's where we don't know. But what
Okay.
happens is if you try and attack a tank sideways, you need an RPG or some sort of a missile that can penetrate a tank. But if you go from above and drop a bomb, it's a lot more devastating because the shielding on top of a tank is much lighter than the side of the tank, because they don't expect from above.
I did
Right.
see that. So they were using drones for that as well too, like basically like dropping like bricks of C4
No
on
drones.
top of tanks. Oh, well, it wasn't drones.
It was literally something called, it's either a regular paraglider or something we called an ultralight. An
Okay.
ultralight is literally a paraglide attached to a small little vehicle. It could be a one-man or a two-man. In this case, I think some of them were two, some of them were one. And it's sort of a go-kart with a big fan at the back.
Yes. Okay.
Picture an Everglade boat. You see those Everglade boats which have that full little fan.
Yeah.
You can and it's a very light hull, and you can just glide. Sort of the same structure, but in very smaller scale. And what the fan allows you is to stay in the air for a very long time.
So they're basically they're essentially jumping off of buildings in Gaza and like essentially gliding into Israel to these small outpost towns, and then like
so before getting the thing about the paragliders is to go over the actual outposts and just dropping. What they did was mostly drop bombs on the big antennas that are the radars and just shut those things down. Once you shut those things down, you're basically blind.
Yeah.
You're blind. And that's what happened. And you'll see it go out more and more because it's a lot of, combat, fog of war, all that stuff. So we don't know actually what happened, but we know what happened. So
Okay.
they blinded those outposts, and then they just punched through the physical barrier, which is not hard. It's just, it's just metal. Just put a bomb, explode, or push it off with a tractor. You've seen it on the news, probably, or not. It doesn't matter if you've seen it on Twitter. And they poured out by the thousands. Initially the numbers were, oh, that's just 100 people. No, we're talking about thousands of people going out into, it's not the wilderness. They just had to go through a bit of mileage to get to those villages, and they went into those villages, and some of it are not less agricultural ones, more of a what you think of as a city, but in a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And they just went ham. They just killed a lot of people. Now, luckily for them, I say luckily because it's just insane.
Yeah.
There was a party going on. It's called a field party. So what happens is they get a permit from the government, and so local authority, local council, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Get a permit. Then you need a security permit. So cops and because it's close to the border, you have to have a like an army permit. You got that. They set up tents, bars, all that stuff, and they just were sleeping, sort of like let's call it a Burning Man. It's like a Burning Man thing, right?
Okay.
So in the fields, sleeping outside, having a good time, taking a lot of drugs, and just dancing, and just full on dancing. That's the whole shtick, is dancing through the night and into the morning. It's a thing here. It's a real thing here.
Mhm.
And literally it was too close to the border, and about 100 to 200 soldiers just encountered about 3,000 people. They had security, of course. They had to, but security in those places are like, if you've got 3,000 people, that means you got about 10 security guys with automatic weapons. That's
Oh, wow.
it.
Wow.
And I'm talking about either M16s or lighter, so AR-15s, even lighter than that.
That's the security you guys have at festivals?
Sometimes, yeah.
Dang. Okay.
Sometimes.
So this is this where I've seen it again. I haven't watched mainstream news. I get all of my like clips basically from alternative like YouTube channels and also Twitter. So I mean, there's been the footage floating around of the German girl, I believe, that was captured, and then
I think she's already dead. She was already dead.
Yeah, she was gone. But that's where they came across this. They captured people there, and then
most of the stuff you see is from that party. There's that video with the girl screaming on the bike. That's from the party.
Wow.
Now, you have to understand, everybody there was you're like, okay, when you see people start shooting, why don't you just go to your car and just drive? They literally drove up the main road where the cars were, destroying the cars, and then going into the fields shooting people.
Right.
So people scattered 360.
Right. Well, and anyone who's been to Burning Man too realizes like festivals like that are like no one's sound of mind. I mean, the first people come across it if it is anything like Burning Man, if people are on some sort of psychedelics or whatever, or just even drunk, like you're not firing on all cylinders and you're not thinking like, so it's very easy to get mixed up in that. And then the adrenaline starts pumping because you realize what's going on. Like you're not thinking clearly. So,
it's the sort of the initial shock, even if you're coming down, so took drugs all night, partied all night, and you're just coming down,
Yeah.
you're not fully there in terms
Yeah.
of coherent. Even if you know what, even if you didn't take any drugs, if you were dancing all night, not even
It's
drinking,
exhausted.
right?
Yeah.
You're just exhausted. You're just
Yeah.
it was 6:30 in the morning. It was 6:30 in the morning. You don't sort of like comprehend what's going on. And they
So-
just got.
Can I ask a quick question? So
Yeah.
these are the Palestinians who are basically invading Israel. Like they're punching through these border crossings, heading into these towns, into this festival. This is the Palestinian army, or these are terrorists.
Okay.
Like I guess that's the
So,
differentiation I'm thinking.
Let me set this thing straight because it gets lost in translation.
Right.
So the part you see here on this map is called the Gaza Strip.
Okay.
It's a part of the Palestinian territories. It
Yes.
used to be run by the Palestinian Authority. So the people who signed the dotted line, those used to be in charge.
Okay.
The other side is a bigger side, what is well known in the media as the West Bank. Okay.
Yes.
Although it's actually in the east side of
Yeah.
Israel.
That always confused
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Let's say the tip of that sort of northeastern corner, and the closest the other side is about 30 miles ish. So it's not far. So they literally have, they don't have a country, but if you thought of it as a country, they literally have two territories in a country, where in the middle you can't really go between those two. Okay, here we go. See,
So
the West Bank is actually on the east side of Israel.
And the map we just had up is this small section, or in the southwest, or I guess the middle west part of Israel.
You see the whole country of Israel is right there. The Negev is literally from the top, let's say from the top of what it says Gaza, from the border and downwards. So the whole triangle is the Negev, and it's mostly empty. And if it has settlements, it's very small ones, and they're mostly agricultural. So either sheep, goat farming, or sort of actual greenhouses, sort of in the middle of the desert, which it's strange. But when you go into the greenhouses, the ground looks not sandy, but deserty, I would say. It's sort of a desert like you see in Afghanistan.
Okay.
The sand is riddled with rock, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
But inside those greenhouses, it's green, like you get peppers this big. It's like bell peppers the size of your head, or tomatoes, or cucumbers. It's a marvel. I've been there. It's insane. So in the middle of nowhere, in the fucking desert, it's like, oh, what the fuck is this? It's like, yeah. So what I'm saying is, so people went into put the festival aside, where people just died. The fact of the matter is, there's still people out there's still bodies out there. There's still bodies out there, because the volumes are insane. No, whatever number I didn't watch the news this morning. Whatever number it is, it's way higher.
It's probably more, right?
It's way higher. We're talking 9/11 higher. Okay. Now, to give you a scale, if you're saying 9/11 is about 3,500 people, I don't think it's 3,500 people. It's less than that. So, but it's in the thousands.
Yeah, it's a lot.
If you think about the entire population of Israel, that's less than the whole city of New York. It's basically all of Manhattan. Just Manhattan.
Yeah.
Okay. If you think about, okay, how many people died compared to how many people there are in the entire country, It's insane. It's insane. We're talking about from the villages, and even in the villages, when the Palestinians went in, they killed people. And because the entire village isn't deemed safe, because we don't know if there's still people out there still, there are bodies in the villages that we can't not even count. And we're talking about from a village of about 300 people, 10% are dead. 15% are dead. Think about that scale. Think about Salt Lake City, and 10% dead immediately. So
Yeah.
in the span of a few hours. That's the scale we're talking about here.
Yeah. It's pretty, I mean, so what, I guess the question becomes, like, for me, what's the end game as far as, like, I mean, I know, or I don't know. Like I said, I've been, I suppose, willfully ignorant on this part of the world, and the conflicts surrounding it. Um, what's the end game for Hamas and the Palestinians in this case? Is it to be their own nation state, independent of Israel, or is it just to create total and utter chaos? Is it they had control of Jerusalem at one point? Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
No. That's a long time ago.
Okay.
That's basically ancient history by now.
Okay.
It's not ancient, but it's history.
Right. Okay.
So let me differentiate. The people who signed the dotted line, the Palestinian Authority, who have control of the West Bank, they have their own police, they don't have an army, but the police are the kind of an army.
Okay.
So they keep the peace at a certain point. And there are Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, but they have sort of a political arm. They have their political people, and they have their own bureaucracy and mechanism. And they were voted into office and took over Gaza, basically by force. That's
Okay.
something that you don't get. It was an election, but at gunpoint. Whatever you think about a dictatorship, it is what it is. But they're not beholden to the Palestinian Authority. They, of sorts, working with them, but not really working with them. Ever since, so we had settlements inside that strip, that small little strip. We had little people living there. When I was in the army, I was there twice.
Okay.
Around what you saw in Rafah, which is closer to the Egypt border. Right there.
Down south here.
I was on the south side of this. Okay. When we pulled out, circa 2004-5, it left sort of a void, because when we were there, they had people to blame.
Right.
When we're not there, they kind of turned on each other. If you think about the Palestinians, they're not a united front. They're built up of several organizations that used to be, all of them, terroristic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of them are like, oh, we beholden to whatever agreements we signed. So that's the Palestinian Authority. Most of them were like super terrorists at the time.
Yeah.
Talking about like 70s. The people who took planes back in the 70s, that's them.
Yep.
Okay. The Hamas is kind of a new organization, came out around the 80s, was kind of helped by the government of Israel to sort of like what's going on with whatever America does all over the world, where they're like, oh, this dictator is bad, we'll just fund the opposition, and then when the opposition comes to be the new dictator, oh, these are murderous bastards.
Right.
That's the doctrine that was in the heads back in the day, because that's what it is. But now They have a political arm, they have a military arm. They're sort of a country, but not really. They do take care of the day-to-day things, but that's what a dictatorship does. So we take care of our own and blame the enemy. And the end game for them, on their charter, it says the destruction of Israel. But every time there's some sort of an incursion, it seems like, and I equated this, and I talked to this to my wife after it's like it happened at 6 o'clock in the morning. At 9:30, I was like, it's like the Joker. They chased that car, and now they got that car, but they don't know what to do with it. Or they got the mailman, but they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So what happens is they went out, they killed a bunch of people. Some, like, they took hostages because it's a sort of a trump card to free their own prisoners from the Israeli jail, right? That's exchanging hostage for hostage. So we take 10 or 100, so you give us 10,000. That's the equation. Was always the equation. And they took a bunch of people, and then what? And they just went back out, and they didn't think they would do so well. So the dog didn't think that they would catch the mailman. They just wanted to bite the mailman.
Right. Or putting the horse before, they put the horse before, or the cart before the horse.
They don't have the military might to capture settlements and move forward like an army does. It's like, if you think about it like this, if you want to like acquire territory, you need to advance, attack, capture, set up a defense, move forward, right? And you have troops that, like, okay, these are the reserve troops. Now the first troops are done. Reserve troops move forward and forward and forward. And that's how you build and conquer territories. That's how you do it, as like an army. But they're not an army. They're commandos at best. So you send out all your Rambos out there, go crazy, go ham. And then what?
Well, what about now that it seems, or from what I've read, I guess maybe I've read this out of the mainstream, is that now that Palestine seems to have backing from Iran, Iraq, and one other country.
That was always true. Qatar.
Well, and then there was also word that funds had been unfrozen to Iran like 24 hours prior to all of this. How does all that?
Let's be
straight.
Of
course, and that's why you're here, because this is stuff you hear.
Let's be perfectly honest here.
Yeah, of course.
The funds that were freed didn't go immediately into this attack. This attack was planned for months, up to about a year and a half.
Okay.
There were a lot of little tiny things that happened along the way that I hate to go into it, but it's very elaborate, where we got tested without us knowing we got tested for that particular thing.
Okay.
Again, there's a lot. There's a lot. It didn't happen from, Biden froze, so that's what's caused it. No, it's the fact that it's frozen was like, okay, we have enough ammunition and stuff to do for this attack. If the money got frozen, we will have the backing for later. That's sort of it. So it does belong to this attack, but it really doesn't belong to this attack.
Well, I guess the question too is
I want to say to Meffistoe, it's like guerrilla warfare. Not exactly. Think about how guerrilla warfare is very effective when you're at a defensive point where the army comes in and you just shoot them down, sort of like the militia versus the redcoats. So you draw them in and you kill them. Okay. I'm just giving you American style points of thinking. Think about those guerrillas going out to attack, and then with what will you hold the ground, because you literally are on bikes and trucks and like light machine guns, few RPGs, but most of the tanks that were hit, it was like about 2 tanks, and the people inside the tanks were not, they didn't kill them inside the tanks, they pulled them out to kill them. The tank was just stationary. And I don't think they got hit hard, even from the bomb from a top. It just stopped. Then it just tracked.
I think that's what, like, it makes. That's why I think I wish I knew more, or it feels like there's more at play here, because, like, yeah, like you're right about the funds frozen, but now, like, it would seem to me, just in the place that I am, that it's something to worry about, because now those, in some regard, funds are available to Iran to help fund this attack on Israel more. And then, like, you like, kind of going off what you said about, like, what's the end game? Like, where do they go? They don't have a standing army. They have commandos, but so I mean, I have to think, to some degree, because it was planned, there must be some contingency. There must be something at play here. Or maybe not. Maybe I don't know. And maybe this is all just something to, continue to test their strength. But
it was always my problem. It was always my problem. And I think it's a problem that they don't have a solution for, is the fact that, okay, you want Israel gone, okay, destroyed, no Jews around, no nothing. How will you accomplish that? Like, there's no way, with evidently enormous amounts of cash. Okay, what they do is they just take those pallets of cash, they pour it into Gaza, they use this cash to grease the wheels with the local population, which are, don't get me wrong, most of the Palestinians inside the Gaza Strip are living in absolute fear. And when I say fear, it's not fear of the Israeli government or the Israeli troops or the Israeli soldiers. They fear their own people. Last time around, when we went in there in 2014, people who were helping the Israeli troops find out where the terrorists are, when we left, they were found out, like Stasi KGB style, pulled out of their homes, chained up in the feet, and dragged through the entire strip. So this guy helped the Israeli soldiers kill our people. Not our people, our soldiers, our guerrillas, our freedom fighters who are literally fighting freedom.
Right.
As Carlin used to say. They dragged those people out in the streets, hanged them, decapitated them, and did other things. It's brutal what these people are going through. And what I thought, and I still think that till today, is let most of the regular population filter through to Israel, work in the fields, work in construction, work in whatever jobs that you can to make money so you can feed your family. And when you feed your family, you have less of a motivation to do harm to other people.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can feed your family, fill your basic needs, you're most likely not go and do any terrorist attack, and not vote for the guys who are doing that thing.
What do you
if you call that a vote?
A lot of the sentiment on on Twitter is it seems to be, from where I sit, anti-Palestine. Like it's, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying my observation is screw Palestine. Like we back Israel 100%. What do you think about the people who are sort of shining the light on both sides? The war is abhorrent. There's a lot of, I even tweeted today, like, I'm so sick of seeing dead children on my timeline that I got emotional today, like seeing it. I cannot stand
I can't do it. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of misinformation because somebody from the UK who's a good friend of mine sent me pictures of like 4 children inside cages. And I was like, dude, this is misinformation. It looks horrific, but understand something. These might be Palestinian children. And for whatever reason, they got taken that picture and sent out today of all days. Or it could be Israeli children that were captured, put in those cages, took the picture, and be done with it. Because what Hamas does with all the captives, and by the way, if you hear about 130 people captive, half of that is bodies. They count a body of a soldier or whatever, they call that a hostage.
Interesting.
Because of how Jewish burial customs are. And it's, by the way, very much like Muslim burial rituals.
Okay.
So they all their captives are always hidden from camera, mostly underground, or in safe houses. You never parade them in the open. Whatever you saw in the open, in Twitter videos, whatever videos you saw, that was a brief moment. And we know for a fact that people from the organization of Hamas, the political arm, was like, shut this thing off. We don't want them to know how many people, who are the kidnappers, where they are. That's their trump card. That's their bargaining chip. That's their bargaining chip. And they don't, they want a full-on fog of war.
That's really interesting to know. I mean, because I don't. Again, I've been very just willfully ignorant on the conflict, just because I didn't know. I don't know. I've just never been close to it. I mean, I think maybe a lot of people are.
And why should you?
Right. I mean,
why should you? It's a small little dot in nowhere, and the conflict is stupid. It involves a tiny piece of land that can be divided, and religious freedom, I would say. That's about it. The conflict, as an Israeli, the conflict is stupid.
Do you think
it's really stupid when you have people that are willing to kill civilians to make a point? Because civilians, soldiers are the same to those murderous people. I don't mean the entire Palestinian people. Right. Those extremists who, sadly, they control what's going on. Because if you have the gun, then you have the say. It's not about the money. It's about, if you have the gun, you have the say.
Well, so do you think that Israel's retaliation against Gaza has been excessive to the point where it may have harmed?
You haven't seen excessive yet. You haven't.
Well, no, and I that's what I'm afraid of. Is I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously bad.
No, don't. This time around, and this is the first time I've actually thought about it. Mm-hmm. All the other times that stuff happened that was really bad, I thought, well, it's gonna go a little bit crazy, but then, like always, we're gonna pull out because the doctrine says we don't want to control Palestinian people anymore. We've done it since 1967. We don't want to do it anymore. We don't want to pay the money. We don't want to put soldiers inside really close quarters We don't want to do it anymore. We don't. And so we're always going to go in and then pull out as much as we can. This time around, I'm telling you, I will not be surprised if they just demolish a fucking hospital. They never do that. And understand this, and this is very, very important to anyone who's listening. The main Hamas bureaucracy, their political arm, which are all commandos that got old, okay? The planners, the people who strategize, the people who make sure the population is fed with propaganda. These people are just sitting 5-6 floors beneath a hospital. And they know the Israeli army will never, ever shoot a bunker buster down there. This time around, I'm thinking 1 or 2 hospitals is going to fucking explode.
Why
and
is now a flashpoint?
Never do that. We never do that.
What's different about now than any time before, do you think?
9/11. It's a 9/11 event.
Wow.
Think of what you guys did in Iraq in 2003.
Yeah.
It was, whatever the reasons were, true, not true, don't care. You guys just went in and just washed over because we need to avenge U.S. lives. Whatever you did in Afghanistan, you just didn't understand that Afghani people are. Probably Bush has not seen Rambo 3. Because if he's seen Rambo 3, you would realize these people don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They can live off fucking sand and gravel.
Yeah.
That's why you were there for 20 years. And that's why you lost. Because you didn't see what happened to the Soviet army. You didn't take any conclusions from that. It's weird. But whatever you do is, when you're going out to war because you have to avenge Pearl Harbor, you want to avenge 9/11, that's what's going on. That's what's going to happen. Now, it's not going to happen, oh, we're going to just go on an attack. It'll be gradual. It'll take a week, maybe 2. They're planning on a full-on, we're going to conquer everything. Look, it's my opinion. Right. We're going to wash all over this entire place, and we're going to go into these bunkers, because if we don't go into these bunkers, we have to annihilate a full-on hospital with everyone in it. And that includes the price of losing 130 people that are half dead and captives. And we're talking about women, children, and an elderly Alzheimer woman. They took an elderly woman that is not there. She's not even there. She was smiling, laughing. She was in their car with them. I saw all the videos with that woman. And they, as soon as they went past that border into Gaza, you never saw pictures of her inside. You saw bodies. You saw mutilated soldiers' bodies getting mutilated in the streets. Yeah, fine. Live people inside, you'll never see. It's strictly forbidden. Not because it's not to glorify their victory. It's literally fog of war. That elderly woman and those children in there, and man, the women, it's just, think about the most horrific thing that could happen. I fear that is going to happen, because I don't think there was any woman captive in the last 50 years or more, if ever.
Yeah.
Not civilian, for sure. So just to put that in your head. These are men. These are not my defense minister said they're animals. Yeah, they acted animalistic. These are still men. And would you call the Viking horde animals? Maybe. Berserkers, yes.
Yeah. Well,
Just
you
think
think
about whatever medieval thing you can think about. That's the humankind. That is the human way of doing things. And when
well,
it's horrific, it is mega horrific.
well, you think too that like maybe some of these Palestinian commandos are just like they're, for lack of a better term, just sort of indoctrinated into this, and then also living in fear. Like I don't have a choice, otherwise my family is
No,
going to be
if you're no. If you're a commando, you've already bought into the system.
okay.
It's the local population they don't like Israel, and I don't expect them to. Uh, I don't sugarcoat anything. We've done some really nasty shit.
Yeah.
We have, um, in the name of defending our country, in the name of the retaliation. I can't hide it. People around me sometimes don't think about it, but you can't. Like it's always individuals. It's not a full-on military doctrine. That's what I'm always saying. We don't send our troops there to go out and do horrific shit. We
Yeah.
send out troops to go and do something, but stuff always happens when you're talking about the human spirit and the human experience. People get berserker style,
Right.
I would say, where they go combat crazy, or not shell shock, but like full on into the battle, or like even if it's peace times, you just go that step too far. That step too far is the difference between spanking and brutalizing.
Is there a path to peace between Israel and Palestine?
Israel and Palestine, yes. Israel and indoctrinated jihadist Islamic propaganda individuals, no. It's always like that. You almost
Yeah.
never do peaceful times with extremists. You make peace with other soldiers, so other combatants, we'll call it. You always make peace with the peace that always lasts the most is the soldiers doing peace with soldiers. That's why Yasser Arafat did it with Itzhak Rabin. It's like the most decorated military guy on Israel's side and the most murderous villain on the other side. And they think he's like the next coming.
Are
Okay.
these groups just a product of our time in that like so like
No. These groups have been there forever.
well I mean like
Forever.
but I mean I feel like in so many places around the world we've been able to make a relative peace. And maybe it's this part of the world that struggles with it, but like I do think to some extent, making all of these people into martyrs on the news and sort of upholding them as like we just give them so much coverage. Like, is that what's keeping these things moving? Like, we can't seem to find a way to broker that peace in these areas, or is it just a product of these cultures that they can't?
The
Maybe this is what it's supposed to be.
The
I don't know.
problem for us, we had a globalist prime minister. We didn't know it was a globalist, but we know now, or at least I know now. We had a globalist prime minister, head of state, that was willing to give 99% of the Palestinian demands at that time. And they sat around, him and Clinton and Mr. Arafat sat around in fucking Camp David. They were offered everything, almost everything. And they said yes. And the next day it was pandemonium, which toppled our government at a certain point because we were overwhelmed. that was pre-planned, pre everything, and that changed a lot of the Israeli doctrine of what peace actually looks like. And people kind of gloss over it because ancient history. This is not like 2000, right? What peace looks like today is you have your territory, we have our territory, and we have a lot of armed guards sitting on the fences in case things happen. And we will let you filter in as long as you guys, your extremists, will keep quiet, not peace, quiet.
Yeah.
Last week, that border crossing started to accept more and more people coming out of there. So a lot more permits to go out and work in Israel came out. It's like, okay, you're keeping the peace. It's been a few months. We'll start getting your people to like get some work, have some money, feed their families, all that crap. And now what?
It's almost
every time that happens, it's sort of like once the low population gets a little bit of breath of fresh air, the dictatorship is like, oh no, that can't happen.
Yeah.
That's what happens on the Palestinian side. That's what happens on the Palestinian side. And that's what drives me fucking crazy. That drives me up the wall, because if you have financial incentive to not go out and murder people, you will not go out and murder people. Plain simple. That's it.
Then you just gotta request that the people who are in power now creating this just walk away from it, or somehow are
they're
removed or destroyed.
Rich. What you don't understand is that they are already rich and they just want to be in power.
Right. They don't want to give up that power.
Because it's easy. It's the same old, wherever you go in the world. And that's why I said it's not about Israel, Palestine. It's about the human experience. It's about what makes us human. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. It is the time and true story of people in power don't want to give up that power, regardless of like the common sense version. And don't get me wrong, it happens here a lot too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It happens here a lot too. We have our own issues, but there's a major factor, and this is very, very Jewish in terms of the Jewish spirit and culture. We celebrate life. We absolute revere life as the number one thing. Okay, it's the Jewish, not only Jewish doctrine, it's the Jewish culture, it's the Jewish religion, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it's the clinging to life which makes us different. The fact that the doctrine on the other side is, in order to achieve life, one must sacrifice blood, sacrifice own self in order to get closer to God. So on the one side, you have, I wouldn't call it a death culture. On the one side, you had some people who are in power that have a death culture. That's what I'm saying. It's not everybody. Like I said, it's not everybody. It's a tiny little amount, but they are in power.
Right.
They have a death culture. We have a life culture. Take it for what you will.
No, it's a problem. It's like looking at this from the outside in. I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, you've shed a lot of light on this for me in understanding like what's going on. I actually watched a really good video that my friend sent me that covered a lot of what you said. And I didn't even realize it was an alternative source. It was presented to me from someone who's a little bit more on the left than usual. And watching it all, it kind of got basically the same thing of what you were saying, but you're shedding light on things that, I mean, you're there, you're in country, and are dealing. I wouldn't say you're dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, but this is your life. Like, this culture is your life, and it's not mine. And I've never lived in a place where, or near a place that I've had to think like, oh, I hope this guy doesn't like fly off the handle today because he just needs to exert his force on other people for no particular reason, or because he just has the power.
I don't. It's like, think about this.
Well, you're much closer than me. I mean,
really think about this. And I want to get to, like, I'm going to speak in like American terms. Your guys are fighting for the Second Amendment. Those of you who are in, like, understand the benefits and the possibilities and the worth of the Second Amendment. The fact that I can carry a gun in order to defend myself from the bad men, whatever the bad men are. Okay. Some people think, well, it's to defend myself from the government or the government incursion into my life. Some of the people are like, no, I'm just carrying a gun because I don't want fucking the nasty criminal coming into my house and killing me or stealing my TV.
Right.
All right. Stealing my property. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have, in terms of speaking, we have a massive fucking Desert Eagle right here on the side.
Yeah.
And the other guy is literally coming at us with knives in terms of technology. We have military might over everything.
Right.
We don't use it. We don't. Dude, understand. We have Lockheed Martin F-22s ready to go to eviscerate that entire place. We have so many bombs that can go deep into the bunkers of hell. Okay. We have the full might of the military industrial complex here on the back burner, because those guys sitting around in Raytheon, Halliburton, fucking take your fucking pick, Lockheed Martin, McDonnell Douglas, whatever you want, all those guys who make fucking the greatest bombs on earth,
right?
They salivate. They want this to happen.
Yeah.
We can crush them into the ground genocide style. We don't do it, or we haven't done it so far. Right. And I don't think it would be, oh, we're just going to take a steamroll and just roll them over. That's 1 to 5 million people that have nothing to do with this conflict. And right. I feel so sorry for them, because in their midst, there are some real bad people with some real bad ideology. If you, it's 5,000, 10,000 people to millions. Okay. That's how deep it is. But those guys with the guns have the guns, and they are, because of that ideology, they are very brutal, not only towards the outside, but very much so to the inside. Okay. It's like criminals. Criminals mostly work in their own space, and in their own space is the same space that they spawned out of. Okay. The Italian mob hurt mostly Italian people. That's what I'm saying.
It's funny. I went to Black Rifle Coffee the other day, right down the street from where I live, and I pull up, park my truck, and I get out, and the truck right next to me is a Lockheed Martin truck, because there's an Air Force base like right there, like right around the corner, basically. And I was just like, interesting. This was Friday, right before everything happens. But no, I mean, it's good to know this, and obviously it's great that you are safe. And it's good to know, like, again, we don't hear this stuff, and I because I haven't paid attention to it or understand your military prowess, your country's military prowess, I think like, oh shit, like what? I don't even know. Like, I mean, I know what the U.S. is like, just kick down any door we want.
We're in terms of thought doctrine is very much like the US. But understand, we are living in an area where we're defending a relatively small area with high-tech weapons of the utmost destructive kind. And I don't want to go into like the nuclear arsenal, whatever it
Right.
is. I really don't know.
Yeah.
If you ask me, I'll tell you what I think, but I
Mhm.
don't really know. I've never heard anybody talk about nuclear weapons in the army or in a strategy conversation. I'm telling you right now, if we have nukes like they say we do, these are secondary strike nukes.
Well,
They will not be used as first strike. These are
yeah, I would
secondary
say,
strike nukes pointed at various countries
I really
that
hope that.
are not Russia or China or the United States. Let's just say that,
I just hope that
or Europe.
I hope everyone's smart enough to not use a nuclear weapon.
Oh,
But
at this point all over the world, and this is my opinion. These are deterrents that I
right,
don't think there's a sane person that will actually press that bomb.
yeah,
It's a bargaining chip of the highest caliber.
yeah,
But if you don't have that chip, you're not sitting at the table, right?
right, right.
If
Well,
you
that's what
do
I
have that
think.
chip, you're sitting at the big boy table. You're
Right,
sitting at the high roller table with that kind of chip.
right, exactly. That's why I think even a nation like North Korea, like I think even they are aware of the fact that like because there was that whole scare for a while. It's like even them, I think they understand that, as you said, it's a bargaining chip. It's not a rational method of warfare. Like we used two a very long time ago, and I mean we saw the full force of it. And I think people realize, like especially with the weapons we have now, I mean they're many times over more powerful than that,
Yeah.
and it serves nobody at the end of the day
Look,
because
I'm telling you right now, and uh, I know people disagree with this, but it's my opinion, so it is what it is.
right,
There's a lot of talk about Iranians getting nuclear weapons, and as soon as they have it, they'll just throw it and annihilate Israel. That might happen, but there's a fundamental issue here, and this goes into the Muslim religion. There are three holy of holiest sites for Muslims. One, Mecca. Two, Medina, and that order, by the way, and three, Jerusalem.
okay,
Wherever you throw a nuclear weapon around Israel that actually does damage, okay? So civilian population or military installations, Jerusalem is wiped off the map.
really,
It is a doomsday weapon because when you throw it, it's your doom.
right,
Not because of, I don't know, coalition against your country, blah, 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 blah. If Iranians throw a nuclear weapon and annihilate parts of Jerusalem, they're dead.
yeah,
They are dead. So you have your doomsday weapon to throw to use as a bargaining chip if you have it. I don't care if they have it or not. As a bargaining chip, but you can't play that hand. They can't unless they want to die.
right.
But you don't play a poker game to die. You don't go all in and just, oh, fuck it. It's just my life.
Right.
No. Because even the most crazy person, and when I say crazy, I don't mean actual crazy, but if the most crazy person won't push that button. And if he really wants to, there's enough people around him that know it's like, dude, if we press that button, if that crazy guy presses that button, I'm dead. I'm dead. And if there's enough people, it would be Julius Caesar style. Right?
Yeah.
Understand that. And that's not only in Iran, that's everywhere. That's everywhere. Do you think people will allow Joe Biden, crazy sleepy Joe, to actually press that button? Do you think if Trump was in office, they would let him press that button? People around him. Okay?
Right.
If you think Trump is crazy, okay, fine. I'm not there with you, but okay. You think Trump is crazy. Do you really think he's going to throw that bomb? Are you the guy who went into fucking North Korea with no guards? And I think that's the most insane move of all time.
Yeah.
That's the single most insane move of any U.S. president of all time. You go into the lion's den, like it's 5 steps. You go into the lion's den with no weapons? Are you fucking insane?
Well, I think he's smart though. Like in that case, I think North Korea, they're not stupid. I mean, I think they're dumb, but they're not so stupid to think that if they took the president of the United States hostage, let's say, or harmed him in any way, like they understand that the repercussions of that from the United States and its allies would be devastating to them, like in ways they probably can't even.
That's high roller poker playing on a global scale.
Yeah.
On a global scale.
Right. And that's why I think to answer your question, I think would people allow Biden to do it? No. I think people are in a position to let Trump do it at this point. Because I think in some regards, he's like proven himself to be like, I'm not taking shit from anybody. Whether that's good or bad would remain to be seen. But I think he's garnered some trust from people.
I think that he understands business. And understanding business is understanding that in order to make money, the people you're trading with have to be alive to trade with you.
Yeah.
Think about that. It's like, okay, I will annihilate my competition, but I want them to be there the next day so I can milk even more money from them.
Mm-hmm.
Think about business side. Think about money side. I want to crush my enemies and hear the lamentations of the women, right? But I don't want them dead. I want them crushed.
Right.
I want more power, not like I want more power and have people to draw more power from, I want them to be there. So that's why when people talk about Third World War, it won't be nukes.
No. Yeah. I don't think so.
It would be for the profit of the people who are pushing it.
Right. Well, and that's, I mean, I don't know if you've ever read Confessions of an Economic Hitman, but I mean, that's what the U.S. excels at taking countries hostage in an economic way. They go in there and they essentially make them beholden to, loans that they take out from us to rebuild infrastructure. And they have no way of actually paying it back, and we have ways of controlling the people we need to control. And when they back out or when they push back, we send in the jackals. So it's
kind of what happened in Venezuela, but somebody was sleeping at the wheel,
right?
And I don't mean Obama.
Yep.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, and it would have happened in China too, but if you don't know or do know, they have serious issues that they're hiding from the world economically. Yeah. That I don't think everybody says, oh, they're going to attack Taiwan. I don't think so. I really don't think so.
The situation in
But
China is
this is like,
interesting.
this is just going
Right.
off topic.
No, it's
Let's bring it back
yeah.
to local stuff, and then I'll leave because we've taken way too much time, and I've already
We have.
seen the other guy going back and forth. Like, are you gonna get up at some point? Yeah, no, he's not. He's a cool guy. He's on the spectrum, so he won't be like, you motherfucker. Uh, but yeah, he's a good kid. He's a
Yeah.
really good kid. Um, what I'm saying is, going back from like top politics into like local side.
Yeah.
I said this, and I will say this again. What happened on Saturday was a pre-planned attack that was planned for at least a few months, if not a year and a half. If I go back to, like I said, there are things that I can say that will make sense, because think about a series of local crimes that seem to be non-connected, but if you put your ducks in a row, it's like, oh my God, how couldn't we not see this?
Right.
That led into what happened on Saturday. Whether you want to believe it or don't believe it, I don't really care. It's not about belief. It's about like serious analyzing the territory, all that stuff. The points of where they breached and went into settlements or villages or towns or whatever you want to call them are the same points where they had the tunnels back in 2014. Exactly the places. They don't say it here on the news, or they won't tell us because fog of war. But I'm telling you right now, just strictly from analysis and looking at the map and knowing where everything is. Like I said, I had the map with all the settlements not there. If they were there, you would understand. Oh, literally all the incursion points exactly where it was supposed to be.
Right.
The retaliation will take a while. What you see now in the news with the airstrikes, that's, you don't understand. That's nothing. That's nothing. That's pitter patter. That's literally pitter patter. It looks crazy, but it's literal pitter patter. And
So like are you saying like right now they're basically following their usual, like, we're not trying to kill innocent people at all. It's like this is retaliation against the people that
no,
did
it's
this. Or is it a mixture?
what you do before you move groundwork, you do artillery. This time around, doing artillery, it's a little bit different because it's a very small strip of land. And when you do actual artillery, it's not as exact as like a bomb that goes straight into a point. And
Right.
you'll see this if you see all the bombings. You'll see one building fall, and there's a lot of debris on the sides.
Yeah.
But most of the building around it are not harmed. So, okay, the glasses shatter, but the building's still there.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's very exact. It's very to the point. It's has a specific target set, and like I said, it's very much pitter patter, but it's artillery before you send in the ground troops.
Okay.
And once you send in the ground troops, that's where you'll see a lot of urban fighting of the highest degree, casualties, many casualties, and you'll see a lot of horrific war shit, because this time around, and it's very very apparent that if we say we're going to war, declaring war is very specific from declaring this is just an operation.
Right.
So an operation is limited time, limited force. War is literally when we are done, we're done. It never happened before. Never happened before. And in terms of our casualties, especially the hostages, in my mind, when they say we're going to war, the thought process, which is very cool, calm, collective, and takes out the human element from it, it's generally saying we want them back, but if we have to sacrifice them in order to kill or uproot a terrorist organization, we will probably do that. Is it the mindset of like the media in terms of going out into the public and saying that? They will never say that. But on the back burner, yeah, they will definitely sacrifice an old lady to kill mass murderers. That's the balance sheet that's the blood balance sheet at the moment. And it was never like this. It was never like this. Today
Dang.
it is. Today it is.
Well, I hope you stay safe. Like you had said, we have gone way over on our time, but this
Yeah,
was
but
quite educational. I think necessary, at least for me.
there's a lot more to get into it. But like I said, I will try to do my best and be doing other shows. That's why I said in my Twitter feed, it's like, if you're listening, if you want to talk to me, I prefer to do it live with other content creators, so it will get out there. My scope of who I can reach is very limited, and I want you to get a balanced way of looking at it, because like I said, I have a lot of gripes with the current administrations. I didn't vote them in. I
Right.
voted for the other side, generally speaking. I
Mhm.
always voted on the other side. It's just me, and I have a lot of criticism towards my country, my army. Uh, I think they have some things very, very wrong, and I have some things very, very wrong too, because I have a certain point of view that is not very popular around anyone I see here. And I think there is a solution, and I am very much of the business way of thinking. I'm thinking about economically, and I think the economics here will outdo any propaganda. That's my point of view, in a nutshell. So the economics will salvage all of us,
Okay.
all of us.
Well, before we go, we're going to give everyone a rundown of what you got happening this week that you have scheduled already. That's not so serious and political.
Okay, yeah, I've uh so the Reel McCoy Podcast is a show we do. I call it a podcast, but because it's easier, but it's a show. You've
Yep.
been there. It's a show.
Yep.
We do it every Saturday for a couple of hours. We tend to stick to the couple of hours just because I literally have to work on a Sunday, and it's a Saturday evening for me, and it's a Saturday afternoon for everybody else on the US side. What we do is ask you during the week to go and watch a specific movie. My hopes is you actually watch it, and then when you watch the show, we can talk about everything, spoil it, talk about the behind the scenes, talk about character work, storylines, all that, going deep into the guts of the movie, and really try to make a sense of what we just saw as a piece of art, whether we like it or don't like it. Because sometimes we watch a movie and we don't like it, and sometimes we watch a movie that we didn't expect and we kind of find different things in it. And that's what I want. My mission statement for my entire channel is to get people to watch movies that maybe they've heard about, maybe they saw once, watch it again, have a different perspective, have a different thought. Maybe you liked it back in the day, now you hate it, or vice versa. That's our show. During the week, this is a full revamp of what I've done throughout my channel. Is in the month of October, I'm doing every single day. I'm watching a movie, a horror movie, or a psychological thriller, or something that is around horror for Halloween. Every day, I'm giving you like a 4, 5, 6 minute review of the movie, telling you the story of the movie and telling you what I think about it, what I liked, what I didn't like about it. Generally speaking, just giving you a review in Mephistoe's movie reviews. And going forward, after the month of October, it'll be more in-depth, longer review videos of movies. I'm going to start with sort of the list of my top 20, not in order, but my top 20 movies of all time. And then moving forward from there, giving you new movies and a lot of old movies, giving you my full review, analysis, behind the scenes stuff, what we do on the show, but in miniature version, and something that is mostly evergreen content that will stay on the channel that I might revisit 4 years down the line, 3 years down the line. And generally speaking, that's my channel going forward. The shorts that I've been doing, those are going to go away. The daily things that I started to do around June and kind of stopped doing that because it was just too much. That stuff is going away. So a full revamp of the channel, which would be just that show for now. No other live streams. My Monday watch party is on a pause right now. Don't have time for it, especially in the month of October, where I have it's an enormous amount of work. It's an enormous amount of work doing a daily review. So we're going to start with the daily reviews in October. Kind of have a fun with it. I call it Project 31 because there's 31 days of October, culminating on Halloween. And then moving forward, other reviews, and that will be just the channel, just movie reviews and sharing what I've done with research throughout the past 2-3 years and making it something extra. It kind of forces me to write a little bit more, do a little bit more of creative work, and less doing technically fun stuff, because making shorts is really fun. It's it's a lot of fun doing those kind of edits. Mm-hmm. So that's going to go by the wayside. And in terms of getting remonetized, because I'm dropping the shorts and everything, it will probably come, but because of it's already been a year, so my 4,000 hours have dropped below the 4,000 hour level. So I might be one of those midway through partners. I don't know what's going to happen with that. So
I might get demonetized.
I'm demonetized because of reused content, just because of the shorts.
Oh,
yeah, I was fully monetized since May, and last days of July, I got demonetized for reused content. And I'm telling you right now, it's just the shorts. Wow. And by the way, I've been doing research for the past 4 days into channels that do shorts of a certain kind. They're all demonetized. Dude, channels that have millions of subs, demonetized.
That's wild.
Channels that you don't know, but you've seen their shorts.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I might even make a full-on video or just a full-on live stream on my other. I have a monetized channel. That's the gaming channel.
Yeah.
I don't use it. I don't have time for it because you need to rebuild it if you want to make something out of it. I can't really transfer all the movie stuff there and try to make money there. Right. I will leave it and I will do stuff with it as it comes. I think it's going to be mostly the live streams, but again, it's 2 different channels. In terms of YouTube, it's a whole mess. It's a real mess. So.
Well, thanks again, man. It's been fun talking to you. It's always a pleasure having you on Wednesday nights or your Thursday morning.
Yeah, I might not be there this Wednesday, but we'll see. We'll see.
Understandable. Yeah, I know No Green Rocks is taking a break this week. You may as well. Like I said, we always have fun, and I appreciate the chat and those who are listening afterwards. I appreciate your support. Today was a much different structure and episode because of everything that's happening in the world. But again, I thank you, sir, for joining me. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for joining as well. I'm just going to drop the link one more time in the chat for my friend who is battling stomach cancer. If you feel like contributing to his GoFundMe, the link is there in the chat, and I'll put it in the description below after we finish the live. But that's it for us today. Thank you so much again. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be talking with Sleazy. We're jam packed full of interviews this week. So make sure you guys check back in. Sleazy, I'll be talking to you in a little bit here. But
no, I'm not Buck Angel.
Yes, you're not Buck Angel. But yes, we're out of here. We'll see you guys later. Take it easy.
Peace.
Host.